All right, welcome in everyone. We are live with the 100th episode of Level Up Law. Since June of 2020, South Carolina Legal Services has been leveling up your legal knowledge about an area of law that we practice in on every Tuesday at noon. I'm Senior Staff Attorney Susan Ingalls, and I'm here with our producer, as always, Kenneth Elliott. It's been a great ride, and we thought it appropriate for this 100th episode that we highlight the South Carolina Access to Justice Commission, because that's what South Carolina Legal Services and Level Up Law is really all about. So you should be viewing, hopefully, Turner Wisnett, who has put together a terrific presentation for us. There he is, about the South Carolina Access to Justice Commission. We are delighted to have Turner on board today. He is one of two Access to Justice Tech Fellows that we have this summer at South Carolina Legal Services, along with Jacob Holland. And I'll just note that Jacob will be doing an episode of Level Up Law for us in August. So stay tuned as we continue to level up your legal knowledge throughout the year. These two guys have been learning about technology and the practice of law, and I must say we have also been learning from them too. So thank y'all for what you've been doing. I do want to mention that to find out more about the Access to Justice Tech Fellowship Program, you can visit their website, which is www.atjtechfellows.org. So just very quickly, before we get started with Turner's presentation, I want to remind you, as always, this is not legal advice. It's just general information for the public. If you do need the help of a lawyer, call our intake line here at South Carolina Legal Services or apply online. That information about how you can do that will be provided for you at the end of today's presentation. So let's see here. Turner, take it away.
Okay, and I think I need permission to start sharing again before I get going.
Can you help us with that?
There we go. Okay, so as Susan said, welcome to this 100th episode of Level Up Law. Today we'll be discussing the South Carolina Access to Justice Commission, and we'll also briefly be discussing their new legal resource finder. So first off, who am I? I'm a Clemson graduate. Go Tigers. I'm sure you saw my background very quickly before we started this. And now I've switched sides to U of SC for law school. I love both places equally. They both have a great place in my heart so far. And finally, I'm blessed to be an Access to Justice Tech Fellow working with South Carolina Legal Services. But this is not about me. This is about the South Carolina Access to Justice Commission. So in 3 out of 4 state civil cases across the nation today, one or both parties do not have representation by an attorney. And in recognition of this need, the South Carolina Supreme Court created the South Carolina Access to Justice Commission in January of 2007. The South Carolina Access to Justice Commission was formed in recognition of the need to expand access to civil legal representation for people of low income and modest means. Essentially, the commission was formed so we can try to give people as much legal assistance as they can have, whether they can afford legal representation or not. It's always the goal to make sure everyone can be represented equally. So the mission of the South Carolina Access to Justice Commission, it's very easy to understand what the mission is. So essentially, you'll see to the left, it says the South Carolina Access to Justice Commission strives to provide legal resources for South Carolinians who otherwise may not have access to them. That's very easy to understand, but as we'll see and hear later, that's more difficult to actually follow through with. There are so many odd ins and outs that go into ensuring that everyone has access to the justice that they deserve. So just seeing the mission is really, it really makes everything seem a lot more simple than it is. So, and then the commission uses these 7 core objectives. They will follow these objectives first to assess the essential civil legal needs of South Carolinians in low income and modest means. So they'll take the information that they have, and they'll try to compile as much information about the state to really see what areas they can focus on to assist people further. They will foster collaboration among stakeholders and legal service providers. This is essentially asking for more people to help out in the commission, more people to provide legal services, pro bono work, to learn and to help those who really need it. The third, they support increased funding and efficient use of resources to expand access to justice. Essentially, they're trying to provide as many programs as possible to help people, help the people in need in as many areas as they can. The support programs and resources to assist self-represented litigants. So this is one that really resonates with me. In my time with the South Carolina Legal Services, I've been working with online classrooms so people can learn how to represent themselves in their own particular case in certain circumstances. So the commission is really pushing these programs so people can help themselves. Even if they can't afford an attorney, they'll be able to represent themselves in a court of law, and they will have at least more representation than they would have before. Their 5th core objective would be to encourage greater voluntary participation by members of the bar in pro bono legal services. Pro bono lawyers, or lawyers who want to participate in pro bono legal services, can kind of be a rare thing, as obviously everyone needs to make some money, but also it's just a lot of the cases that they may face, they might not have any experience. They might not know as much as they wish they did going into the court of law to defend the people who need it. So if there can be more voluntary participation throughout the state, throughout the attorneys that we do have, then it would really further the mission of the Access to Justice Commission, and it would provide a lot of legal services to people who otherwise would not have them. The 6th would be to promote education and outreach about the gap in civil legal services. There's a large gap when it comes to the average or the income of many South Carolinians and the legal services that are available to them. So, which many people would not even think about. I know for one, I wouldn't think about that. Just being finishing my first year of law school and coming in as a tech fellow, I had no clue. And it's really been eye-opening to learn and just to see the reports and the information that is available that you just would never think about in the first place. And then finally, they recommend new initiatives and technology to expand civil access to justice. There's always new technology. We know that. And having a commission that can reach out, that can constantly be thinking and working and trying to promote all of these new things, is just always beneficial for everyone. Everyone will always be at least trying to evolve with the technology of the time. So we're always going to need the people like the Access to Justice Commission to push us farther with the new technology and the initiatives that we have. So next, I'm going to discuss briefly the South Carolina Justice Gap Report. So this is a yearly report that illustrates the lack of access to the legal assistance in areas of basic human need all over the state of South Carolina. So this report will compare the statistics of South Carolinians and their income to the accessibility of legal services across the state. So the best way to really illustrate that would be to show it. So the Justice Gap Report can be found on the SC Access to Justice website. So here briefly, we'll see. So this was the report for 2021. There's a brief write-up of the commission, and then we see our 7 objectives, and then we really get into the gap, all of the numbers. So we see, just as a few examples, over 20% of South Carolinians are eligible for subsidized legal services. Over 10,000 intakes are processed by South Carolina Legal Services every year. Over 92% of defendants in eviction, foreclosure, and debt collection cases are unrepresented. So here we can see a lot of the numbers that we normally would not think about or normally would not have as much access to, of South Carolinians across the state and the legal services, not only that they could be eligible for, but that they may not even know about. We can scroll farther and see areas where we may need to work to improve ourselves and just continue to grow as a state to provide legal services for as many people who need them. And kind of following off of that would be the this Justice Gap interactive data tool. So this is a tool that is also on their scaccesstojustice.org website. So it will take the information and the numbers that I kind of just showed from that Justice Gap report, and you can really break it down into more focus groups all across South Carolina and even just by county. So here we see, this is the page for it. So you can begin with this statewide profile, and then you could even just select by county. So you can pick, you can be very specific with that. I'll just leave it statewide for here. And you can see as much information really as you could need. So first, it starts with the need. You can adjust these graphs for poverty rate, age, race, veteran status, disability. So there's really a ton of things that you can see as you're working through this data tool to find what you might need, what you might be looking for. There would be need, there would be access, and there's representation. So you can see, especially here, debt collection, 96.1% of debt collection defendants are unrepresented. You can just mess with every tool that you can to really understand what Access to Justice is trying to do statewide and what kind of changes they have made so far compared to even some goals in the future. So next, I'll be showing an interview with the chair of the South Carolina Access to Justice Commission, Justice John Few. He was a graduate of the University of South Carolina School of Law, and he is also a justice on the South Carolina Supreme Court. He has been so since 2016, and he has been the chair of the South Carolina Access to Justice Commission since 2017. So this will be a small interview with him. I think we're rolling. So, okay. So to start off, so what do you do as the chair of the South Carolina Access to Justice? What are your responsibilities, and what do you kind of keep track of?
Well, we have 3 or 4 meetings a year. So one of the first things that I'm responsible for is conducting the meetings. When I first became chair, we were kind of in a situation where we didn't really have a director of the, an executive director of the commission, because our executive director was in the process of moving to Tennessee with her family. And so I for a little while, played the role of director and chair. But one of the very first things that we did after I became chair was to start looking for a new executive director. Hannah Honeycutt, who you'll have on here also, has just been fantastic. So she does all the day-to-day work. She sets up the agendas for the meetings. I make sure the meetings run on time, the speakers begin and end on time. And I try to take what they're presenting and draw it out a little bit and put it into a form, maybe that the commission members can be more engaged with. So during the meetings themselves, it's very important to me that we have a lot of engagement with the commission members. And so I try to generate that as best I can. And then outside of the meetings themselves, I have weekly conversations with Hannah. Hannah does a fantastic job of running the commission and getting the work done on the ground that needs to be done. And she keeps me informed of all of that. I share my ideas with her. But one of the things that I told her in the beginning of her tenure was that you're the director and you're going to be the director. We hired her because she's great. And so I try to support her, encourage her, not interfere with her, and just give her free rein.
Yeah, and you both do a very good job of that. In our most recent meeting that I was lucky to attend, you did a great job with that as well. I was really happy with how everything turned out.
Well, thank you.
And since you have become the chair in 2017, so 5 years now, what all has changed aside from Hannah becoming a director? What all has changed in the commission itself? And then what are some goals that you see for it in the future?
Well, we're really just beginning to scratch the surface of what the Access to Justice Commission can do to help the people of South Carolina. I would say that one of our biggest successes so far has been to get commission members engaged. That was one of the priorities that Hannah set when she came in. And so she has worked and I have worked really hard to make the meetings and the work of the commission not where folks just come in and listen to a presentation, take the information and go home, but rather truly engage, get involved. We've set up subcommittees and the subcommittees are doing great work. You heard some presentations from those committees. And so we've done a really good, Hannah's done a really good job of getting commission members involved. Another thing is that she has led us to a much broader working understanding of who is already out there in the field doing the kind of work that the commission wants to support. And so we have prioritized, the commission, Hannah's the only employee. We can't really do a whole lot of the work ourselves, but we target folks that we can help, give them support, give them ideas, help them to collaborate. And so I think that really the work of the commission in the future is really to expand on those two things and others, and just get the footprint of the men and women who are actually doing things to break down the barriers that folks out there face to get into our justice system, so that they can get in. And that's both physically getting in and getting in other terms of participation. So there's a whole lot of work that we can do, and we need people to. I'm so glad that you're doing this 100th edition of your podcast with the Access to Justice Commission, because I and Hannah will often, and other commission members will often go out and talk to people about what we do, and they are astonished. First of all, that the need is so great. People just don't really realize how much of a problem a lack of access to justice is. And so we have a lot of work ahead of us, and we're all counting on Hannah to continue to lead us in the direction that she's been taking us so far.
That's right. And I'm happy to be here doing this 100th episode. It's a little bit intimidating, but it's fun. And I've enjoyed learning about everything. So you just said kind of your goal is to tell everybody what we do with Access to Justice, kind of spread the word. What other resources would be really valuable in the future when it comes to meeting the goals that you've set and then setting new goals in the future? Besides kind of spreading the word, what else can be done and what's useful?
I think probably the lowest hanging fruit for us, so to speak, is to continue to engage with people who are already out there doing this type of work. There are many organizations around South Carolina that are engaged in work that is directly related to access to justice. And to the extent we can leverage what they're already doing to help them do more of it and help them do it better, that's probably the work that we can do the best for right now. It would be wonderful if we had a staff of 30 or 40 people and a budget of several $1,000,000 a year to go out there and do the work, but that's probably never going to happen. So we have to, and I think also it is better that we be decentralized and we have more of a goal of building relationships of support between us and folks who are doing these types of things in their communities because that's what they want to do, because it's important to them, because they understand how great of an impact it can have in their community.
Okay, and then
we do need to have a help with social media and the press, and what you're doing here is exactly what the thing that we need for people to know about it and get involved, not just lawyers, but many folks who could get involved in what we do.
Okay, and that would lead me into kind of asking, so you said you want to continue to work with the folks that you've been working with who are committed to access to justice. How can you kind of develop that interest in access to justice in new generations of lawyers, both in their law school career and then their legal career in general?
Well, we already try to be involved in the law schools. We have law school professors from both schools here in South Carolina who are on the commission, and we try to stay in touch with all of the incoming law students. Either Hannah or me will be in each law school basically every year doing something that is related to instilling in them the value that their membership in this profession is about more than just what they can do to take home a paycheck. It really is about the extent to which lawyers can help people in the community to live better lives. And that is, the more we are able to provide access, then the better lawyers do at helping people to live better lives.
That's right, I agree. And then when people get into their legal careers after law school, they've found their spot in a firm, but they have never really been involved with access to justice. They don't do a lot of pro bono. They don't give back to the community as much as they would like to. How would you recommend they get involved?
Well, being a lawyer is tough. And one thing I promised all my friends when I became a judge 22 years ago is that I will never forget what the desk of a practicing lawyer looks like at about this hour, 4:45 on a Thursday afternoon, and how much the stresses of the competing stresses of work and family and other aspects of life can really make life stressful for a lawyer. And we ask a lot of lawyers when we say we would like for you to be more involved. We'd like for you to do pro bono. And I think that one of the ways that we are best successful is that it's retelling some of the stories that are out there about the way the things that have meant the most to lawyers. There's so many lawyers who get to not necessarily the end of their career, but get far along in their career, and they will truly tell you that the most important thing they ever did was this one case where they helped this family and they never got paid for it, but it is something that they have always looked back on with a great deal of pride and really makes them feel like their profession has rewarded them. So it is hard. We expect a lot of lawyers to just do their paid work well. And then when we add on top of that the hope that they will do some unpaid work, it's a lot to ask, but it is rewarding, and we need to make sure that people understand that.
And then kind of to wrap everything up, so what would be the best way, in your own opinion, people can promote access to justice, whether they are a lawyer or working in the legal field, or whether they are just kind of the everyday person who learned about access to justice and really want to promote it in some way?
Well, I guess it kind of depends on where you are in your life. We ask folks on the commission to go out and speak to civic clubs, go to school groups, get the word out about what we do. If you're a judge, we need you to understand how important it is, how difficult it is for some people to get in there, even get to the courtroom sometimes. And then once in the courtroom, how difficult it is to communicate effectively about what their problem is and how they think the problem should be solved. If you're a lawyer, then we want folks to not only do pro bono, that's a big thing, but there's more. There's a whole lot of elevating the level of information, the promoting the value of understanding and trying to solve the problems of access to justice. And then if you're a law student like you are, helping to instill that value that I talked about earlier. We need to bring back into our profession the value that we're here to help people. And we make money, that's fine. But our purpose in the community and in society is to help people. And when those are the different things that come to mind, but there's so much more. So, but all of those things could be really helpful.
Okay, and then kind of as some final words, this is kind of circling back to just about you. What would you say is the most rewarding part of the Access to Justice Committee from your standpoint? What have you possibly done, or what have you seen that really makes everything worth it for you?
Well, from my role as a member of and chair of the commission, the most rewarding thing, most valuable thing that has happened to me is to watch the success that others have had, and to know that I have participated in giving these people a platform to do some good work out there. Hannah in particular, but not just her. So many other members of the commission have just done fantastic work. You were at our most recent meeting and you heard some of those folks speak. If I began to try to list the folks who fit into this category, then I would extend your podcast over its time limit, I'm sure. But that's rewarding to me to know that the Chief Justice has designated me to be the chair of this commission, and I have participated in enabling so much good work to be done.
That's great. And like I said, you do a wonderful job as the chair, and Hannah will be on after this section, and she does a wonderful job as director as well. And it was a great meeting to be in too.
Your listeners need to know that I'm the warm up and Hannah's the main act.
That's right. All right. I appreciate everything that you've had to say, and thank you so much for coming on and helping me with this podcast.
You're quite welcome. I look forward to seeing the whole thing when it goes live.
Thank you. So thank you again to Justice Few for agreeing to help with this. It was wonderful to have him in a conversation with me, and it's wonderful to have his own perspective on what he does with the commission. So next we will have Hannah Honeycutt, who will be joining us live for this next section.
Hello.
She was a graduate of the University of South Carolina School of Law, and she is the executive director of the Access to Justice Commission and has been since 2000.
So I'm just seeing the email you forwarded from Tom. Is that what you mean, or?
So, Hannah, are you here?
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. So first, to begin, I would like to just, kind of hear what you do as the director of the Access to Justice Commission.
Sure, yeah. So as Justice Few said, I am the only staff for the commission. So I identify projects and kind of decide what the commission can and should work on. We are a convening body. We kind of serve an umbrella function to kind of bring together an expanded range of stakeholders to increase access to justice. I encourage our commission members to actively participate in those projects and goals. I organize and provide staff support for our committees. We have a governance committee, an outreach and communications committee, and a self-represented litigants committee. I plan our commission meetings. Those happen 3 times a year. I also give presentations to various groups about the justice gap and the commission's work. Just last week, I spoke to a group of high school students about the justice gap and how they can kind of engage in access to justice. And it was just a really great experience. They were also eager to be involved and really responded well to these issues. And so I really like doing stuff like that as part of my job. I also organize and foster our legal services provider coalition. I maintain a listserv and host regular Zoom meetings that bring together provider organizations all around the state. South Carolina Legal Services is our largest provider of free civil legal aid in the state, but there are also a lot of other smaller providers that do the same type of work. And so that group kind of encourages coordination and collaboration around legal services delivery. I also stay up to speed on national access to justice issues, and I try to keep our commission members informed about those developments. And also, since I am the only staff, pretty much everything you see produced by the commission I have done myself. I designed and I maintain our website. I create content and manage posting for all of our social media pages. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and now LinkedIn most recently. I develop educational materials for the commission that I can use, and also that my commission members can use to go out and talk to different community groups that they're a part of. And I do like the graphic design for anything that you see come out of the commission. For any of those educational materials, anything that's on the website, I designed the Justice Gap report. So really, anything you see produced by the commission, I have done it.
So following from kind of the list of everything that you do for the commission, what are some of the things that the commission has accomplished just in the years that you've been there that you would be most proud of? What would you that you have accomplished with the commission, or that the commission in general has accomplished, that would really be your almost bragging point?
Yeah, so I think I'm probably most proud of the Justice Gap report and data tool that we put together. A lot of work had been done on that before I started, but I think that since I started in this role, we were really able to push that through to fruition, and I'm really proud of what we were able to produce in that report. I hope that future kind of editions of that report will be even more comprehensive and useful. For example, we weren't able to get the family court data that we had requested in time to include it in this report. I also would like to include data from other smaller legal services providers in the provider data section in the future, but I'm really, really proud of that. Also, our legal resource finder, which I think you're gonna do a walkthrough of in just a little bit, so I won't talk about that too much, but I'm really proud of that. And also something that's a little bit smaller, but I think really innovative and could be really helpful is the commission kind of successfully pushed through the Supreme Court approval of CLE credit for attorneys that participate pro bono in the Charleston Housing Court, which happens down in Charleston. We had not, South Carolina had not before then offered any type of sort of incentive CLE credit for pro bono participation. That's something that they do in other states, but we hadn't done it here. And I'm really kind of proud of that innovative step and hope that it will kind of lead to other innovations.
Okay, and speaking of those other innovations, so after you've released this Justice Gap report, you've done innovative things so far. What would you like to see come next? If you were setting goals for the commission now, what would be kind of the next step for that?
Yeah, I'd really like to see our coalition of legal services providers kind of grow. We have a lot of people involved now, but I'd like to see that grow into even more of a collaborative group effort. Also, we're like in the last third of our first ever statewide legal needs assessment. That's a year-long project. And again, it's the first ever comprehensive survey of the civil legal needs of low-income residents in South Carolina. We've contracted with researchers from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro to conduct that research. They just did a similar study in North Carolina that I was really impressed by, and that's why I wanted to use those researchers. And that's co-sponsored by the Commission, the South Carolina Bar, and the NMRS Center on Professionalism at the law school at U of SC Law. And that report will bring together kind of data collection and analysis, surveys of both low-income populations and practitioners, both legal aid attorneys and private attorneys, and also focus groups to kind of really paint a comprehensive picture of the civil legal needs of low-income and low-income South Carolinians and people of modest means. The focus groups especially, I just wanted to touch on, they really provide a rich source of data that's coming from the populations that we're trying to serve themselves. And those are often populations that are kind of overlooked. And I think that's a really important and rich piece of this project.
It is. And so you kind of discussed these comprehensive studies, the legal needs assessment, and even with the South Carolina Justice Gap report. Can you explain in any way how South Carolina stacks up to the rest of the United States?
Yeah, other states are doing a lot of the same things that we're doing. There are over 40 access to justice commissions or entities around the state. So not every single one has them, but there are a lot of others. And commissions in other states are doing a lot of the same things that we're doing, things like data collection, needs assessment, education, coordination among providers. Some states are definitely a lot further along than we are, but I do think that we're further along than some other states. And I think we're well on our way to a better South Carolina. And we really do have a ton of kind of potential to springboard off of the work that we've done with the Justice Gap report and the forthcoming needs assessment.
And from everything that you've been discussing with it, I can hear how passionate you are about the South Carolina Access to Justice Commission. So can you just kind of explain, what does access to justice mean to you as a whole?
Yeah, to me, access to justice means that anyone, anywhere in the state who needs legal help can get it, period. Access to justice shouldn't depend on how much money you have, who you're connected to, where you live. Access to justice, kind of to paraphrase former U.S. Supreme Court Justice Lewis Powell, is a fundamental ideal of our society. And what does that look like in practice? I think it means that it's easy to find legal help. People don't get kind of batted around between organizations looking for help. They're more easily directed to where they need to go. And we're hoping that the legal resource finder that you're going to talk about in a minute will be the beginning of helping with that problem. It means that our provider organizations can handle the demand for legal assistance that comes their way. They're fully funded, they're fully staffed, they're able to do that. And when they can't, pro bono attorneys are waiting in the wings to help. It also means that our provider organizations work together with each other to meet the demand and the needs of all South Carolinians. And it means, I think, process simplification so that people can more easily access the court system and other systems that govern their lives.
That's wonderful. There are so many things that go into access to justice. It's hard to even narrow it down to what it could mean to one person, because it can impact so many different people in so many different ways. But you did discuss the legal resource funder tool. So can you kind of just give a brief explanation about the tool and kind of how it was created and what went into creating it in general?
Sure. I got connected with some folks out of Georgetown Law through one of our commission members, Elizabeth Chambliss, who is the director of the NMRS Center. They're also partnering with us on the legal needs assessment. I got connected with them, and there's a class at Georgetown called the Civ Tech Practicum. And what that is a law school class where students come in and use a tool called Neota Logic to create access to justice tech apps, basically, for different organizations around the country. It uses branch logic to create these different apps for people around the country. And what I wanted to do for the Legal Resource Finder, if you go to our website, there's a button up at the top that says looking for legal help. And when you click on that, it takes you to a page that I created when I first set up the website with different kind of buckets of legal needs. And you can click on the type of problem that you're having. There's a section for civil, criminal, bankruptcy, stuff like that. And then when you click on the type of legal need, it takes you through all of your options for finding an attorney. And I spent a lot of time kind of gathering all those resources. I like everything that's on the website, but it's kind of hard to use, right? There's a lot of text there. There's a lot of things people have to scroll through and read. And I thought that it could be better. And so when I found out about this opportunity for this kind of access to justice tech solution, I thought maybe we can make something that's a little bit easier for people to use. Something that also happens a lot is someone calls a legal aid organization, and if that organization isn't able to help them, they kind of give them the number for somebody else, and people end up kind of bouncing around between organizations trying to find someone that can help them. And so the app, I think you're going to do a walkthrough in a minute, but the app asks you a series of questions about your income, where you live, what type of legal problem that you're having, and then it gives it, using the logic in the app, it gives you a report of the legal aid organizations in your area that might be able to help you. I mean, there's no promise that any of these organizations will actually be able to take your case, but it will at least point you in a better direction than you just Googling it and calling people. So that was why I wanted to create this app, and hopefully it's helpful.
I think it will be very helpful. And as you said, I am going to do a walkthrough of it now. Feel free to hang around if you would like to.
Sure.
If not, I thank you for everything that you've discussed so far. And you've been wonderful to have here.
Thank you.
Okay, so here we are at the South Carolina Access to Justice Legal Resource Finder. This is a very, very simple tool that can be used to just see what is available to, so as Hannah said, so you're not bouncing around trying to figure out what would work. Here you can see what may be more available to you in your specific case. So this is where you'll begin. This is the start page. It just lays out what will happen and what this information will be used for. So when you click next, you will be brought into this disclaimer. Essentially, this tool is not intended to replace speaking with an attorney or an expert about your needs, and it does not create an attorney-client relationship with anyone in the tool. So it also lets you know that there could be other legal options available to you out there, but these are the ones that that are in the tool that they have found that could help you for your specific case. So you accept and understand, go to next, and then there will be another disclaimer. Essentially, you'll be putting in some information. It will not be saved or given out to anybody, but still, if you're in public and you're using it, you may not want to leave all that information sitting out for others to see. So when you accept and understand, it will take you to the to essentially question 1. So it's what kind of legal problem do you have? So they've taken this list of problems and they've given them to you to click on, but in case you aren't completely sure what kind of problem you have just off the top of your head, you can hover over each of these issues and you can really see it kind of defines what each one would be, so you know, so you're more confident what you're clicking on, you know what you're looking for and where you should be. So as I said, every single one, you just hover over it and you can get a description. Just for the sake of doing a walkthrough, I'll click education. And so you'll click on your specific problem type and you will click next. And then here would be subtypes. typical questions that people will have, typical issues that people will have, or an other category. So for the sake of this, I'll also click other. And here's where you would put in your personal information. This information would only be used to see what may be available for you after the resource funder runs its search. So you would put in the income for everyone who lives in your home combined. For the sake of this, we'll just put in $10,000, and I'm the only one in my household right now, so we'll put in 1. And you click next, and you'll select your location. It has every county in South Carolina. You can put where you are. It tries to be as specific as possible with you. So since I'm in Columbia, we'll put Richland, and we'll keep going. And it's as easy as that. You put in those few answers to the questions, and you will get a report based on the information that you put in. So when you click view your report, you can download it from here. You can also have it emailed to you, or you can just scroll down and it's here. So this would kind of be, tips for intake when you call somebody. My name is blank. I need help with this issue. I live here. Here would be the income, and here's the best way to reach me. Also, when you scroll down, it will show you, based on your responses, these are the organizations that you may be eligible for. So you will receive a list of the organizations that may be able to help you, information about them. So for Disability Rights South Carolina, you will see their phone numbers, their office hours, email addresses, and any contact information. You continue to scroll down, and these will be all of the resources available to me. And as I said before, you can have this report emailed to yourself. Just input your email and it will send it to you. That way, if you are in public or just are worried about accessing it later and don't want to take the few steps to do so, you can have it emailed to you. You can have it anywhere. I'm sure you can download and print it if that would be more convenient for you as well. So, and it's really as easy as that to see at least what may be available to you for your specific case at hand. And from there, it would take reaching out, just seeing what might be the best fit for you and what could help the best. So, and then here would be the information to contact South Carolina Legal Services. I'll leave this on the screen, but I wanted to thank everybody for tuning in to this 100th episode of the Level Up Law presentation. I'm very happy that I got to be a part of it, and I'm happy that I got to speak with Justice Few and with Hannah Honeycutt on everything that has to do with the commission and the legal resource finder. There will also be a link in the description when this video does come out that would also show a walkthrough of that legal resource finder as well.
Well, Turner, I want to thank you so much. Turner, as he mentioned, is a rising 2L at the University of South Carolina School of Law, my alma mater. So we're so excited to have him with us this summer. And this was just a terrific presentation, Turner, and definitely information that everyone, not just lawyers, need to know about. And we sure appreciate what you've done, not just with this presentation, but while you've been here, and will continue to be here the rest of the summer. And also particularly thanks to Hannah Honeycutt, Executive Director of the Commission, and of course, Justice Few, who gave his time to fill us in on what he does as the chair of the Commission. It was very good insight, I think, for all of us. And we also want to thank you, our audience out there. We appreciate you being here today and for joining us each week on Level Up Law on Tuesdays at noon, but especially today for our 100th episode. It's been really great. We're so excited about continuing the program. So also, as a reminder, our producer, Kenneth Elliott, will post this episode along with all the others on our YouTube channel. We have a special playlist for Level Up Law. So if you go to our YouTube channel at SC Legal Services, click on playlist, and we have more than one playlist. So find the Level Up Law one to find this and other episodes. And also, I just want to mention, if you found this episode helpful, and I'm sure a lot of people did, please go there to YouTube and click on the subscribe button. We want as many people as possible to be tuning in every week, and also share out this episode and others if you know of somebody that you think it might be useful to. That's so important as well. And while you're there, be sure to, besides subscribing, sign up for notifications by ringing that bell, and that way you'll always know when we have posted a new episode of Level Up Law or any new information for our folks out there that we're trying to help get that access to justice. So again, Turner, thank you. And everyone else, one other thing I want to mention is always do check out our social media, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and be sure and follow us there as well. That way you're going to get all the up-to-date information that we provide, not only here on Level Up Law, but information about all of our other resources that we are constantly sharing out with everyone. And keep in mind that you can use that legal resource finder that Turner just went through with us to find resources that way. As I think you saw when he went through the legal resource finder, South Carolina Legal Services was one of the providers that popped up. And so you can find information that we have that way as well. I think that's a great tool, makes it really easy for the user out there to find some help. So I think that's all we have for today. Be sure to tune in next week on Tuesday at noon for another episode of Level Up Law, where our education unit head, Elliot Tate, out of our Charleston office, will be giving us a presentation on education law. It always promises to be exciting when Elliot Tate is the presenter, so be sure and tune in. And thanks again for tuning in today on Level Up Law. That concludes the webinar. Thanks again, Turner.
Thank you.